PT, or Playable Teaser, is one of the most infamous horror game demos ever released, offering a chilling glimpse into what could have been Silent Hills. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the out-of-bounds secrets of PT, the eerie details hidden just beyond the player's reach, as well as some unsettling behind-the-scenes footage. If you enjoy this kind of content, I do have lots of other out-of-bounds videos, including my most recent video covering Fable. Links are in the description. Quickly, I'd also like to mention the genius Lance McDonald for helping with some of the technical issues I had whilst I was making the camera and different tools that I use for this one, and I'll talk more about that later in the video. But I also realise Lance has made incredible videos covering this game himself, but working on PT has been like an itch that I've wanted to scratch for years now. So here we are, and I hope you enjoy it. The game begins in a sparse, nearly empty room where our character rises to their feet. As the camera captures these first moments, we catch a fleeting glimpse of our character. At this stage, only the arms are visible. There's no head, no legs, just an incomplete figure that then disappears to complete invisibility for most of the demo. A subtle but eerie detail in this opening scene is the brief appearance of someone watching from the other side of the door. Under normal circumstances, this figure is almost unnoticeable due to the visual effects like film grain and camera blur. But a closer inspection reveals the silhouette of Lisa peering in. Curiously, Lisa seems to appear in a lower poly form than her usual model. Now, this is possibly due to how the manipulated cutscene camera that I worked on processes light within the scene. Additionally, the hallway beyond the door isn't fully rendered at this moment, which could also affect her appearance. As the scene finishes and the camera tilts to the floor, you can see when Lisa vanishes from view. In a brief moment off camera, this picture on the wall mysteriously teleports to a new spot as the player reaches a specific trigger point around the corner. Interestingly, there's no animation for the door opening when we approach to examine the picture. The banging bathroom door, at this stage, is exactly as it appears. No one is inside. However, the emptiness behind closed doors won't always be the case, as we're about to discover very soon. During the next walkthrough of the corridor, the end door shuts, trapping the player. That is, until the bathroom door opens and we can take a look inside. This is when we get our first more visible glimpse of Lisa. Here is what it looks like from inside the bathroom. Note the quick torch light effects added to create some light on Lisa's model. In typical gameplay, glimpsing Lisa is difficult. She appears and vanishes so quickly that we barely get a chance to study her. However, in this part of the demo, Lisa stands waiting in the corridor, presenting a rare opportunity to observe her full character model. Her face is truly unsettling. One eye appears to be missing, while the other is swollen to the point it's protruding from her skull. It's glazed and has a vacant stare. A single high heel hints that the incident might have occurred after a night out, and even though it's not explicitly stated that Lisa is pregnant during the incident, it's heavily hinted at and left open to player interpretation. This becomes way more apparent from a side view, which we wouldn't normally get to see. After picking up the flashlight, the door slams shut behind us and footsteps echo from the corridor outside. Of course, once we're able to leave, no one can be found. Normally, we wouldn't be able to see beyond the room during this time. However, unlike the earlier scene where the bathroom was empty, believe it or not, Lisa does make an appearance this time. This is likely because the footsteps we hear are tied directly to Lisa's walking animation and coordinates, allowing us to sense her approaching just outside the door. In this scene, we also have a chance to glance into the bathroom mirror. To maintain the mystery of the protagonist's identity, the section of the mirror where our face would appear is intentionally scrubbed, leaving no visible reflection. By locking the flashlight and the character yaw coordinates, then slightly adjusting the camera downwards, I was able to see our character's face fairly clearly, revealing none other than the talented Norman Reedus. Interestingly, the game relies on screen space reflections rather than a duplicated room or model, as various other games do. This mirror scene is the only point during gameplay where we get a view of our character, so it was great to be able to take a look at these details we wouldn't normally be able to see. One of the most chilling moments in the demo occurs when Lisa's shadow appears within the beam of our flashlight, giving the impression that she's following us down the corridor. Naturally, you'd want to turn around and see who or what it is behind you, but when you do, there's nothing there, or so it seems. A subtle clue reveals what's really happening. If you turn slightly left or right, Lisa's shadow shifts in the opposite direction. This eerie effect is a clever design choice. The developers have locked Lisa's position so she's always directly behind the character. However, by fixing the character's position and rotating only the camera, we can actually see her. As the player moves, they're blissfully unaware that off camera, Lisa is present and gliding down the corridor behind them. It isn't until the infamous gouge it out moment that Lisa vanishes from the scene completely, and for the time being, the player is once again safe. After navigating the looping hallways several times, a window crashes down from above, and Lisa appears on the balcony, staring menacingly at the player before vanishing into the darkness. For those curious, the balcony itself holds no other details, yet its emptiness gives off its own eerie, liminal atmosphere. Though the most haunting part of this scene, Lisa's expression. Up close, her face is absolutely terrifying. Scene that was close to the top of my agenda for this video after playing the demo and was also requested by Inkribbon was the looping red corridors. Here's a quick rundown of how it works. As the player gets to a certain point away from the entrance door, the rest of the map loads, linking the corridors together. Eagle-eyed viewers may have also noticed the pictures lined up out of bounds. I guess these are probably the original assets used for the pictures in the corridors. As for the scene when looking through the spy hole in the wall, this is located in the bathroom through the wall from the corridor. The camera simply has some sort of overlay and coordinate restrictions to make it seem as though we're peering through a hole. I wanted to share some interesting out of bounds details I noticed whilst making the video, in case you're curious too. Disso reached out on Discord to ask what lies outside the initial room before we exit. In this instance, the hallway itself hasn't been loaded yet, though this isn't the case with subsequent corridors, as I'll demonstrate shortly. However, we can spot various interactive items out here, such as pieces of paper we collect and the baby. The corridor loads once we're close enough to trigger the door animation. Capturing this was a real challenge due to the camera's behaviour when an animation begins, but I managed to get this shot of it happening. Then the room vanishes as we take a few steps beyond the doorway. Typically, there are 2 corridors loaded at any given time, although they aren't always illuminated like this. The upcoming corridor often remains in complete darkness until we trigger the door animation and step inside. Using the flashlight, we can explore an unloaded corridor and spot some differences, such as the bathroom oddly having 3 doors. This could be part of the game's loading mechanics, as certain corridor layouts and events are dynamically selected based on the level we're going into. Outside the corridors, there is nothing much to see other than these shrubs, which I guess we'd never normally get to see. There is also an impressive amount of grass texture for no real reason, but I guess it's nice to find it here. One of the most intriguing Out of Bounds secrets, nearly impossible to discover without a clipping glitch, is a failsafe mechanic. If the player manages to escape the looping corridors, they'll find Lisa waiting deep below the map, ensuring that no matter where you go, she's practically always waiting. Which brings me nicely onto my next point. What exactly happens when Lisa has had enough of us walking the hallways and decides to attack? For this one, I managed to trigger Lisa's attack in the starting room, a scenario that wouldn't normally occur, though the outcome is ultimately the same. Again, capturing this scene was tricky due to how the animation camera works, which limited my usual control. Hopefully, with a little more testing, I might be able to get this fully functional. However, you can just about make out from a view behind Lisa's head that our character remains invisible, whilst the flashlight stays on, helping to highlight Lisa's face during the scene. She then looms over us in silence until the screen fades. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. There's plenty more Out of Bounds secrets and behind the scenes content on my channel and across my social media. Special thanks to Disso on Discord and Ink Ribbon for their viewer requests that helped shape this video, and of course a huge shout out to the developers who bring these incredible games to life. It's their hard work that allow us to explore these hidden secrets. Again, big thank you to Lance McDonald. He and I have been discussing PT recently, and he shared some fascinating insights into his own research into the game's mechanics. Keep an eye out for a potential future video on this subject from him. Trust me, you will not want to miss it. For now, if you are curious about more PT Out of Bounds secrets, I'll link to Lance's video where he explores the town of Silent Hills that appears in the credits. Thanks for watching, as always, take care, and I'll catch you soon.